Hello everyone. Today we are starting a new chapter of class 11th NCERT, The Portrait of a Lady, written by Khushwant Singh. We will be going through all the lines of this chapter and I'll explain everything in between so you understand it perfectly. Please focus on the screen as meanings of difficult words will be displayed. And don't worry, I won't break the flow of this beautiful story. Make sure you have your book with you if you want to jot down the meanings. So without any further delay, let's dive into the story. The author, Khushwant Singh, says that my grandmother, like everybody's grandmother, was an old woman. She had been old and wrinkled for the 20 years that I had known her. People said that she had once been young and pretty and had even had a husband, but that was hard to believe. Let's first see the meaning of the word wrinkle and then we'll come back. Let's continue the story. My grandfather's portrait hung above the mantelpiece in the drawing room. He wore a big turban and loose-fitting clothes. His long white beard covered the best part of his chest and he looked at least 100 years old. He did not look the sort of a person who would have a wife or children. He looked as if he could only have lots and lots of grandchildren. ऑथर ये मानने को तैयार ही नहीं थे कि उनके दादाजी और दादी जी कभी यंग भी रहे होंगे. Do you also feel like your grandparents have always looked the same? Please check out the difficult words and their meanings and then I'll be right back. Have the images helped you understand the difficult words better? Let me know in the comments. As for my grandmother being young and pretty, the thought was almost revolting. She often told us of the games she used to play as a child. That seemed quite absurd and undignified on her part, and we treated it like the fables of the prophets she used to tell us. Please don't get overwhelmed with words like fables of the prophet. I'll show you the meanings right away. Now, in the next paragraph, please notice how the author is describing his grandmother's appearance. She had always been short and fat and slightly bent. Her face was a crisscross of wrinkles running from everywhere to everywhere. No, we were certain she had always been as we had known her. Old, so terribly old that she could not have grown older, and had stayed at the same age for 20 years. She could never have been pretty, but she was always beautiful. She hobbled about the house in spotless white with one hand resting on her waist to balance her stoop and the other telling the beads of a rosary. यहाँ रोजरी का मतलब है माला और टेलिंग द बीड्स का मतलब है माला जपना या कह सकते हैं माला की मोतियों को जपना. तो यहाँ ऑथर ने बताया है कि उनकी ग्रैंड मदर के फेस पर बहुत सारी झुर्रियाँ थीं. उनको जब से याद है तब से उनकी दादी जी इतनी ही एजेड हैं और वो इतनी ज़्यादा ओल्ड हो चुकी हैं कि वो पिछले 20 साल से उतनी ही ओल्ड दिखाई देती हैं. ऐसा लगता था कि उनका उससे ज़्यादा बूढ़ा होना शायद पॉसिबल ही नहीं था. ऑथर अपनी दादी जी की फ़िज़िकल अपीयरेंस डिस्क्राइब करते हुए कहते हैं कि वो शॉर्ट थी, फैट थी, स्लाइटली बेंड थी यानी कि थोड़ी सी झुकी हुई थी एंड शी वॉज कवर्ड विद रिंकल्स. डिड यू नोटिस्ड? ऑथर की ग्रैंडमदर उनके लिए ब्यूटीफुल थी, पर मूवी स्टार काइंड ऑफ ब्यूटीफुल नहीं, बट डिफरेंटली ब्यूटीफुल. अब आप सोच रहे होंगे कि डिफरेंटली कैसे? लेट्स सी दैट इन द नेक्स्ट पैराग्राफ. Her silver locks were scattered untidily over her pale, puckered face, and her lips constantly moved in an inaudible prayer. Yes, she was beautiful, She was like the winter landscape in the mountains, an expanse of pure white serenity, breathing peace and contentment. Yes, author के लिए उनकी grandmother beautiful थी, not in a modern way, but in a calm, peaceful and spiritual way. My grandmother and I were good friends. My parents left me with her when they moved to live in the city and we were constantly together. She used to wake me up in the morning and get me ready for school. She said her morning prayer in a monotonous sing-song while she bathed and dressed me in the hope that I would listen and get to know it by heart. I listened because I loved her voice but never bothered to learn it. Then she would fetch my wooden slate, which she had already washed and plastered with yellow chalk, a tiny earthen ink pot, and a red pen, tie them all in a bundle, and hand it to me. After a breakfast of a thick, stale chapati with a little butter and sugar spread on it, we went to school. She carried several stale chapatis with her for the village dogs. So, the grandmother used to say her morning prayer in the hope that author will learn it. But did he even try to learn? नहीं, उन्हें तो बस अपनी ग्रैंडमदर की आवाज़ सुनना पसंद था. My grandmother always went to school with me because the school was attached to the temple. The priest taught us the alphabet and the morning prayer, while the children sat in rows on either side of the veranda singing the alphabet or the prayer in a chorus. My grandmother sat inside reading the scriptures. When we had both finished, we would walk back together. This time, the village dogs would meet us at the temple door. They followed us to our home, growling and fighting with each other for the chapatis we threw to them. Here we see what happens when they go to school. The author goes to school to study while the grandmother sits in the temple reading scriptures. वापस आते टाइम वो stray dogs को बासी रोटियां खिलाते थे. This shows their simple lifestyle and how small moments made them happy. A quick question for you guys. Think about your own grandparents. Is there a specific sound or smell like tea or certain prayer that reminds you of them? Drop it in the comments, I would love to know. When my parents were comfortably settled in the city, they sent for us. That was a turning point in our friendship. Although we shared the same room, my grandmother no longer came to school with me. I used to go to an English school in a motor bus. There were no dogs in the streets, and she took to feeding sparrows in the courtyard of our city house. As the years rolled by, we saw less of each other. For some time, she continued to wake me up and get me ready for school. When I came back, she would ask me what the teacher had taught me. I would tell her English words and little things of Western science and learning, the law of gravity, Archimedes' principle, the world being round, etc. So this is the turning point. इस पैराग्राफ में हमने देखा कि अब ग्रैंडमदर ने डॉग्स की जगह स्पैरोज को फीड कराना स्टार्ट कर दिया है. दिस शोज दैट शी इज़ नाउ मोर अलोन एंड हैज़ लेस इन्वॉल्वमेंट इन द ऑथर्स लाइफ. अब स्पैरोज उनके नए कंपेनियंस बन चुके हैं. एवरीथिंग चेंज्ड व्हेन दे मूव टू द सिटी. नो मोर वॉकिंग टू स्कूल. नाउ इट वॉज अ मोटर बस. नो मोर डॉग्स. So she started feeding sparrows in the courtyard. But the real distance? It was the English school. Let's see how. This made her unhappy. She could not help me with my lessons. She did not believe in the things they taught at the English school and was distressed that there was no teaching about God and the scriptures. One day, I announced that we were being given music lessons. She was very disturbed. To her, music had lewd associations. It was the monopoly of harlots and beggars and not meant for gentlefolk. She said nothing, but her silence meant disapproval. She rarely talked to me after that. He started learning science, gravity, and music. To her, music was lewd. It wasn't for gentlefolk. She didn't argue, she just stopped talking. Can you feel that? That moment when you realize कि अब आपके पेरेंट्स और ग्रैंड पेरेंट्स आपकी दुनिया को नहीं समझते. That's exactly what Khushwant Singh felt. Even when he went to university and got his own room, the common link of friendship was finally snapped. Let's read that part. When I went up to university, I was given a room of my own. The common link of friendship was snapped. My grandmother accepted her seclusion with resignation. She rarely left her spinning wheel to talk to anyone. From sunrise to sunset, she sat by her wheel spinning and reciting prayers. Only in the afternoon she relaxed for a while to feed the sparrows. While she sat in the veranda, breaking the bread into little bits, hundreds of little birds collected round her, creating a veritable bedlam of chirpings. Some came and perched on her legs, others on her shoulder. Some even sat on her head. She smiled but never shooed them away. It used to be the happiest half hour of the day for her. When I decided to go abroad for further studies, I was sure my grandmother would be upset. I would be away for 5 years, and at her age, one could never tell. But my grandmother could. She was not even sentimental. She came to leave me at the railway station but did not talk or show any emotion. Her lips moved in prayer, her mind was lost in prayer. Her fingers were busy telling the beads of her rosary. Silently, she kissed my forehead, and when I left, I cherished the moist imprint as perhaps the last sign of physical contact between us. ऑथर को लगा कि हो सकता है ये उनके बीच एक लास्ट फिज़िकल कॉन्टैक्ट रहा हो सकता है जब वो वापस आए तो ग्रैंड मदर उन्हें ना मिले. But that was not so. After 5 years, I came back home and was met by her at the station. She did not look a day older. She still had no time for words, and while she clasped me in her arms, I could hear her reciting her prayers. Even on the first day of my arrival, her happiest moments were with her sparrows, whom she fed longer and with frivolous rebukes. In the evening, a change came over her. She did not pray. She collected the women of the neighborhood, got an old drum, and started to sing. For several hours, she thumbed the sagging skins of the dilapidated drum and sang of the homecoming of warriors. We had to persuade her to stop to avoid overstraining. That was the first time since I had known her that she did not pray. This paragraph is very unusual and important. The grandmother stops praying and suddenly starts singing and celebrating with other women. ग्रैंडमदर अचानक से प्रेयर करना बंद कर देती हैं और बाकी वुमेन के साथ सेलिब्रेट करने लग जाती हैं। ये तो उनका यूजुअल बिहेवियर नहीं है। The next morning, she was taken ill. It was a mild fever, and the doctor told us that it would go. But my grandmother thought differently. She told us that her end was near. She said that since only a few hours before the close of the last chapter of her life she had omitted to pray, she was not going to waste any more time talking to us. We protested, but she ignored our protests. She lay peacefully in bed, praying and telling her beads. Even before we could suspect, her lips stopped moving, and the rosary fell from her lifeless fingers. A peaceful pallor spread on her face, and we knew that she was dead. We lifted her off the bed, and as is customary, laid her on the ground and covered her with a red shroud. After a few hours of mourning, we left her alone to make arrangements for her funeral. In the evening, we went to her room with a crude stretcher to take her to be cremated. The sun was setting and had lit her room and veranda with a blaze of golden light. We stopped halfway in the courtyard. All over the veranda and in her room, right up to where she lay dead and stiff, wrapped in the red shroud, thousands of sparrows sat scattered on the floor. There were no chirping. We felt sorry for the birds, and my mother fetched some bread for them. She broke it into little crumbs, the way my grandmother used to, and threw it to them. The sparrows took no notice of the bread. When we carried my grandmother's corpse off, they flew away quietly. Next morning, the sweepers swept the bread crumbs into the dustbin. Why do you think the sparrows didn't eat the bread? So we just read the entire chapter together. This story teaches us how relationships change with time, but the love still remains. If you understood everything clearly, make sure to subscribe for more chapters like this and like this video to motivate me to make more engaging videos for you. Bye bye for now.